Hi, Mina.
Hi.
Hi there. Great to have you on these conversations that we're having with folks that are involved in Architect Tomorrow. So welcome to the series.
Thanks
Um,
for having me.
let's kick off with a little bit about how did you get into your current role?
Yeah, so, sort of long and winding journey, I'm sure, like most people. But I'm a lawyer by training, American, living in the UK. And after 20 years of being a global health lawyer, the last 15 of which I spent advising from a legal, compliance, and ethical perspective, big pharmaceutical companies, I decided to sort of launch my own consulting company
Okay.
called Decode X, which is London based, but global in nature. And it's meant to meet a growing need to be able to efficiently navigate the complex legal, compliance, and ethical issues associated with health innovation. Obviously, in the middle of a global pandemic, the need for innovation and speed while maintaining safety and trustworthiness has never really been more important. And so there was just this real sort of opportunity that seemed to open up itself and give me a chance to sort of share some of my unique experience and skill set. As I say, 20 years in global healthcare, to sort of help some of these more new, fresh health tech companies get up and running.
Awesome. That sounds very interesting. So, in your view, what are the qualities of a good business partner?
So for me, as a lawyer, I think there's a lot of chat out there around, lawyers can be helpful or they cannot. So I think it's really important as a lawyer to really make sure that I understand the business objectives of the companies that I'm working with. What is the strategy? What are the objectives? And then for me to help them work through what are the risks to achieving that strategy? What risks are we willing to take and
Hmm.
maintain in order to achieve that strategy, and how do we mitigate the rest of it and find the opportunities so that when we have clarity for the business around what they can and cannot do, then actually they can do more and do it quicker, as opposed to when they don't have business facing advice that sort of speaks to them in their own vernacular. And where uncertainty remains, people go slow and have a
Hmm.
tendency to second guess decisions and get things wrong more frequently. So a good business partner makes sure that they are as au fait with the business as they are with the legal and regulatory landscape in which that business is operating.
And linked to that, I mean, you're someone that's worked with a range of people in your kind of corporate roles and so on. This series is for architects predominantly and kind of related roles. Working with those sort of technology architects, what have you seen work well in working with those people? What attributes or qualities have you seen in those folks that's been helped you in your role? Yeah, kind of what I suppose it's in summary what I'm trying to say is what advice would you give someone working with you as an architect
Yeah.
in your role?
Well, it's been an eye-opening experience for me, actually, because as you can imagine, the legal and compliance fields are pretty traditional,
Yep.
and have traditional ways of working. So working with call them digital, call them tech minded folks has opened my eyes to a new way of working. I didn't know what agile was
Right.
until a couple of years ago, and now agile risk management is something Decodex offers its clients.
Right.
On top of that, there's also the capability and the ability for me to work with technologists on ethical design thinking.
Hmm.
I love working with developers and UX designers and coders around, what are the misuse cases as well as the use cases.
Right.
And so good at thinking through that product life cycle, but also trying to get them to think about what the misuse cases would be. So if Facebook was invented today and we knew any
Yeah.
inkling of what it was capable of, what different decisions might we make in its design or its code to mitigate those misuse but also optimize the use cases. So I've learned so much working with technologists in the last couple of years, and it's so helped me refine what the risk and compliance offering can be, and
Mm.
helping educate them on what those issues are, whilst they educate me on a more iterative, more collaborative, more frankly effective way of working and creating a risk product that people love, not just a technological product.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think a lot of folks think about the sort of functionality, the kind of positive sort of side of things, but looking at the other side is certainly, yeah, it's certainly interesting kind of to look at. And so kind of Staying on kind of the theme of kind of looking forwards, what do you think is the future of healthcare, and what interesting things have you seen in the health kind of tech scene?
Well, the future of healthcare is bright. I think really, really bright, spurred and accelerated and augmented on by this global pandemic. I mean, it has shifted the landscape quicker than it was
Mm,
already shifting to, which is really sort of a more patient-focused and patient-based healthcare landscape rather than a physician or a payer-based
right.
landscape. Patients these days have so much more information about their healthcare than they ever did before, and it's only growing. And they are wanting to be more in charge of those decisions. And all of that is facilitated by and augmented by technology. So wearables, insertables in the future, digestibles in the future. There's so much on the table and so much on the horizon already that healthcare as we know it today will be fundamentally changed. And I think there'll be a shift from not only the patient, from the healthcare professional to the patient, but also from treatment to prevention, from health to wellness,
Hmm.
sort of a broader category of things. And I think from a tech perspective, the disruption, health is kind of one of the last bastions of disruption from a tech perspective. The barriers to entry have been high, but I think the margins are too tempting for the big tech companies to stay away for much longer, if at all. And you hear people like Apple talk about the fact that their health play is going to be the play for them
Right.
in the future. And you can believe it. You can absolutely believe it. So I think the intersection of tech and health is coming, and it's coming quick if it's not already here. And I think the impact will be enormous and to hopefully great benefit to the patient.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I kind of, there's been a lot of discussion about kind of people moving closer to tech and tech moving closer to people, and kind of it's going to be interesting, I guess, to see quite where things lead. It's, yeah, fascinating kind of thinking about digestibles. Did you say? I mean, wearables is something I think everyone's kind of fairly familiar with, but wow, it's a really, that's going to be really interesting, isn't it? Kind of the implications of taking something that then reports on your health.
Yeah.
It opens up a whole bunch of kind of challenges, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. And there's so many bits about the human health and the human body that we don't know enough about, the microbiome, the brain. And there's so much research left to be done. And tech has such an invaluable role to play in that. And obviously, there's this sort of ethical undertone that we need to keep
Mm,
an eye on to make sure that it's all tech for good and humane tech, particularly when it comes to people's health,
yeah.
because we're ultimately talking about people who are vulnerable population wise. And so I think as long as we're being thoughtful and that we have the right eyes on the progress, then I think the impact can be huge.
Great. Thanks, Mina. It's been great talking to you, and I look forward to doing more sessions with you. And of course, we have the event coming up this week, don't we, on architecture for good,
Yeah.
where there's a wide range of us with different perspectives. But I know you're keen to talk about the kind of personal data and the sort of health angles to future tech. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Should be
looking forward to
great.
that. Yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff. Thanks,
Looking
Mina.
forward to it. Thank you.